Right. Oh, wait. Sorry. Get that out. All right. We left off on Monday. We finished up lists, right? We said let's talk about dictionaries here on Wednesday. So we are right on track. Things are going well. Next week, we'll get into classes. Classes are a foundation of object-oriented programming, a big focus of what we're going to do next semester if you continue on in the 2001 course. You don't need them to solve problems, but they make solving problems easier, just like with our functions. We really didn't need to have functions to solve problems. They just made life easier for us, right? It's the same idea with classes. They allow us to use a particular approach. It's another tool that makes life easier for us as programmers. And anything that makes life easier for us, lets us be lazy, is a good thing, right? I think we agree. So we'll get into that after we finish up dictionaries here. Oh, there we go. Where am I saving this? Desktop. There we go. That ought to do. All right, got that. So let me fire up PyCharm here. Nope, not that one. No. Did not want to open that one. PyCharm. My goodness. One of these days I'll learn how to use my computer. Oh, I gotta have chat open on the PC over here. All right, so we did our tic-tac-toe game in lab. I think half you folks got it done before we left lab. Is that too generous? Less than half? Maybe people left and they were just tired, which is okay. Like, if you're done, it's perfectly fine to say I've had enough. I'm going to go home and do something else for a little bit and then come back to it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a little tricky sometimes to stay focused on it for that long in the day. Now, eventually, I think you ideally want to go get a job in the industry and you want to be doing this for like 8 hours a day or so. But even then, it's not always going to be 8 hours heads down, never saying anything, just jamming away at the keyboard. That's very unlikely. Maybe some organizations do stuff like that, but typically there's meetings and other things to break up your day. So definitely have some sort of balance is good. All right, so this was lists and lists of lists. So let me do, maybe I'll just put it at the top. Is that okay? We'll just work our way from the top here. We'll add all of our stuff for dictionaries. So we have, pull up our library here. All about dictionaries. So we used them, right? They give us this mapping type. We could say, here's a key, and here's a value associated with that key. Is the idea with our dictionary, right? So I can say, hey, here's what it is, here's the value, right? And a dictionary is a good example of that, right? You have the key is the word, and the associated value is the definition of that word. That's why we call it our dictionary here. So you look things up by the key to get the value that's associated. So most of the time we'll probably know what the keys are, right? So it's not really we're looking up keys, we're trying to find the value associated with those keys. So a couple different ways you can use the dict function if you want to create dictionaries. Some people like it. I just like the curly braces myself because that's what I'm used to. So you can use curly brace notation with key : value. You can use the dict function with key equals value. Sure, you got, with anything, there's like 3 different ways to do whatever you want here. So whichever style you like, but you might see people use this particular notation here. Getting a value versus setting or adding. Right? This behaves a little differently. Like with a list here, you will get the value or set the value. With the dictionary notation, we are adding the value or setting the value. Right? So they behaves ever so slightly differently. You can delete with the del keyword. Right? So if we make our dictionary here of what do we want to have, like classes here, is going to be a dictionary, and we might have CIS 1501 : this is CS1 for data scientists. Right, and then we might have another class like IMSE 317, I want to say, that is probability and statistics. ability statistics, something like that. I was actually just looking at that one because that sort of stuff is really interesting, and numbers are fun, of course. And you're all data science people into numbers, I'm assuming. Numbers aren't scary, at least for you, which is cool. Which is really unfortunate. Like our state of education, that kids get through school and they're like, oh, I'm bad at math, and it's not really that they're bad at math, but as we group kids together by age and say, here's a math topic, and by the way, if you don't get it, we're going to move on anyway. Like, leaves a bad taste for math in a lot of people's mouths. So that's a little unfortunate. But anyway, so you look things up by the key, and then you get the associated value. So if you wanted to delete a class here, we can use that del keyword. Sure. Or we can say classes dot, and we've got things here. So I prefer pop, because I just like the notation of everything else is like, here's my variable dot, here's my variable dot, here's my variable dot. That's a little more natural to what we've been doing here. So we could pop something off here, given a key to remove it. That's generally a little nicer, but they both work, right? So we want to show you there's lots of different ways, lots of different code you might see, because a lot of programming is taking what someone else built and building on it and expanding it, changing it, modifying it, making it do new things, that sort of stuff. So you want to know that there's other syntax out there and that it's okay if you see other ways of doing things. And then the in notation, most of you did really well on this in the quiz a while back here. Remember, it does not look for values, it looks for keys. And I apologize if that was a little mean on the wording there in the question. Can you check to see if a value is in a dictionary with the in operator? And no, you can't, because the value is the associated value, where a key is the key. And I think some people might have thought, well, you meant the value of the key, and I apologize if that wasn't clear. So maybe it was a bit of a trick question, right? But if you say, is a value in a dictionary, when you think of values, those are the associated values. When you ask if there's a key in a dictionary, right, that's the key. So the terminology here gets to be a little silly at some point. Yeah, so that's all the basic stuff we've done with dictionaries already, right? We covered in chapter 3. So some more interesting stuff that we can do with dictionaries, some of these methods here. The get method is really nice because it will get you a value or a default here. So if I were to just say, hey, let's ask the user for a class here. So imagine we have a whole course catalog. I'm not going to type them all out because why? But we'll just imagine it's a course catalog. So we'll say, oh, this is the class to take here. Is an input of enter the course, what is it, department and code or something? Or if I just say course code, would you know to include the letters? Okay, to the course code you want to take, right? And then we would say, okay, we'll print your class's key of the class to take. Here is the value associated with that key, right? So if I run just that here, and we enter a course like CIS 2001 that doesn't exist in our dictionary, we get, key error 2001. That key doesn't exist. We get a key error. So that's not always what you want to have happen because you don't want your program to crash. Now we could say something like, hey, if my class to take is in my classes, right, print it out. Otherwise, else we'll print that class isn't in our catalog. Sure. With a nice little if else, we could do that and run this now. And now it won't crash on us if I say I want to take CIS 2001. It's just not catalog. But it's a little nicer, right? Because we're lazy people. We want to do things with less lines of code. I could just print my classes.get, the class to take, comma, what's the default value? If it doesn't exist, what do I want it to say? Well, I want it to say that class is not in the catalog. And I can run that one. So now, CIS 2001, we get it's not in our catalog with a single line rather than an if else. I mean, you've seen a couple different shortcuts now. We can use the little I have no words today, friends. The question mark operator, the conditional operator, to do an if else in a single line if we're going to assign a value to something, right? We can do that. People love doing things on a single line of code. If it's not your thing, it's okay. This does the exact same thing for us here that this does. But we kind of like here, we're calling the get method, we'll get this value out. And then you don't actually need the default either, right? We can call get without the default. So if you just like using methods and you want to make sure, hey, I don't accidentally want to go get or go add a key here to my dictionary, like I don't want to go mess with it, I just want to get the particular value out, you can use that as well without the default. The default, if we don't specify, is none, right? Because we didn't give it a default value. That none, that nothing special value here means it's not there. So that's an option as well with the get method. So get's really nice. You can call update that takes two dictionaries and merges them together. Right? With a list, we could say, hey, we could take one list, add another list to it, because it's a sequence type. Right? And we'll just add to the end. Right? Well, here's all the things I used to have in the first list. Here's all the things in the second list to get added in. We can add two lists together. But with a dictionary, you're really kind of merging here because one set of keys and another set of keys might have some overlaps. And which associative value do we want to keep? So the one that you are passing in the update are the values you're going to keep with the keys that overlap. So again, don't bother memorizing it, just go look it up. So if you need to take two dictionaries and jam them together here, right, just know, hey, the keys in dictionary 2 are going to overwrite the values, the associated values. And again, we don't even need necessarily to use an update method here. We could do it ourselves if we had two different dictionaries. We could do a loop through the first one, a loop through the second one, and add all the values in. Right? So if we had, here's classes and more classes or something, and then a dictionary, maybe in here we had CIS 2001, colon, CS2 for data scientists. And then, I don't know, what's another fun class? Isn't it, is it math or is it stat? What's the intro to data science? Stat? 325? Intro to data science? Data science. I love our math friends and statistics friends. They're awesome. Which I don't know if you saw in Canvas. I got an email from a friend in the math or stats department. I don't know if they're the same department. I really should know these sorts of things, but I don't. They're not my school. They have a math and statistics colloquium, symposium. I don't know what all these fancy university words are. And there's a speaker talking about data science today at 3:30. I put it in the Discord because I can never remember these things. Talking about careers in data science. He's the CEO of a company in Ann Arbor that does data science, AI sort of things. So I feel like half of it's a sales pitch, but it should be an interesting talk anyway. And then now we know someone local in the area who does data sciencey work, and he wants to talk to university students, which is usually a good sign. Like, hey, maybe he wants to hire people. So other than that, I know nothing about it, but I got the info, wanted to pass it along. It's a cool opportunity if you're free to go and listen to what he has to say. So that's out there. So anyway, so the classes and more classes, we can merge them with the update if we wanted. We could do it the slow way, right, which is perfectly fine. We could have like a new dictionary. Dictionary equals a dictionary. We could say for key in my classes. We'll take the new dictionary and we want to add a value of the key, and the value associated with it is going to be my classes in key. Right? The value associated with the key in the new dictionary. Right? We could loop through this as copying things from the classes dictionary into the new dictionary here. Sure. And then we could take for key in my other classes or more classes dictionary, do the same thing. Right? But with more classes. Copy them over. Now we have a new dictionary. So I think actually update here is going to update dictionary 1. So we don't even need to make a whole new dictionary. We could just go and update the classes list here then. We could say, let me take for key in more classes. We'll take classes key of the key value, and we'll assign it a value, associated value of the more classes key, the value associated with that key in the more classes. So if this key existed already, it's getting updated with this associated value. If it doesn't exist, it's getting added. So it's the same as the update, right? Same as classes.update given more classes. So there's always going to be a bunch of ways to do things here, right? Ideally, we do the easiest way, but they still get the job done, right? If you like to do your own loops here, we can update. You can pop something off and pop removes a value, and you get a chance to use the default. If that key doesn't exist, like the get method, what do you want as the default here, which is nice. So if I go remove something and it's not there, I can get out some sort of default value, which is pretty handy. So looping over a dictionary, the basic one is, for key in the dictionary. We just did some of those loops. Other things we can do, you can ask the dictionary for the items, which get you tuples, key value pairs. You can ask it for just the keys, gets you just the keys. You can ask it for just the values to get just the values out, which is kind of fun. So as I'm looping through my dictionaries, let's say I wanted to loop through maybe the new dictionary here. So I could say for key comma value in my new dictionary dot values. Right? We can do this unpacking here. If you're getting back a tuple, Python says, oh, sure, I will unpack that for you into two different variables. The first thing in the tuple and the second thing in the tuple. Right? And then we can just print the key and the value. Let's see if that one works for us. CIS 1. Uh-oh, too many values to unpack. What did I do wrong? No, it's not values, it's items. Sorry, values is the associated values. You guys gotta check me on this stuff. Friends, I was totally on purpose to see if you would catch it. Yeah, definitely. So items here, right? Items then will give us the key value pairs when we ask for the items. And we get the whole list of classes here, right? Here's the key, here's the associated value, here's the key, here's the associated value, here's the key, here's the associated value. I'm just happening to call them key and value. Now, as you might expect, I'm not going to be modifying them and have those modifications stay in the dictionary in this kind of loop, right? Because we're getting a copy here, okay? So that's a nice little shortcut. If you just want the values, right, you can use dot values. If you just want the keys, you can do dot keys. And estimates, yeah, totally on purpose. I like that emote here. So depending on what we're looking for, so if you want to see if there's a value in a dictionary, right, we could say, hey, if my, I don't know, you want to say intro to data science is in my new dictionary dot values. I can look for a value inside of a dictionary because I'm looking specifically at the values, right, rather than the keys. Because by default, the in just looks at keys. Values, the values out. Right, now this is not going to be very fast. So the downside of this is it's slow. But again, we don't really care about fast or slow at this point because we're just learning here, and we're not going to do anything a million plus times where it being slow will really matter. Our computers are ridiculously fast as is. We're pretty spoiled, right? Let's be honest. We didn't have that luxury years and years and years ago, but we do now, so we don't have to care. Because some people say we're teaching you bad habits by saying we don't care about performance, and I guess that's kind of true, but it makes everything else easier to just not care. I feel like you could learn that stuff later. So I teach with a friend who's been teaching for like 30 years, and they have a very different outlook on things, and that's okay. Different outlooks are everyone have their own opinion. That's perfectly fine. Some of us are just right. Okay. Now we can print, that class is offered or something like that, right? To see if that particular value is there. 1, and that class is offered, right? We are able to find the value associated with a key here of Intro to Data Science. Hooray. Instead of just a key. So iterating over the items, right? Key value pairs, iterating just over the keys. Now, most of the time that's just silly because we already get the keys out with just a for value in dictionary, right? They're already there. So doing that doesn't really gain us a whole lot. But what you can do with this, which is nice here, is as we start to get lots and lots and lots of classes in a dictionary and they get put in different orders, remember the order is never guaranteed in a dictionary. So just because you put it in first doesn't mean you'll get it back out first. And there's whole reasons we'll look at next semester why that is. But if you want to get a sorted sequence of keys, you need to get the keys out and then sort them, right? Remember we looked at a couple ways of sorting lists last time? So if I wanted my sorted dictionary, I could say for key in my new dictionary dot keys. Now I can't just call dot sort, right? There is no sort here because keys itself is not a list. It's a weird like in between object in Python. So you can't just say take all the keys, sort them, right? But we can do, I think we can give it sorted here. And remember, sorted gives you a new sequence here. It doesn't sort an existing sequence in place. It takes an existing sequence, makes a new sequence that is sorted. So then I can print my key, comma, and then my new dictionary value associated with that key, right? So I can use keys to get the keys out and sort them. So if I want to show the items in my dictionary in a sorted order, this is a really handy way to do that we didn't really have before, right? Without this keys notation, I guess we could have gone through every key and added them to a list ourselves and then sorted that list. Like, again, there's 3 different ways to do anything here, but now we'll get a nice looking output here. CIS1.1. Sure, and now we get a sorted version here. Again, when you sort strings, you get smallest letter first, biggest letter last, and smallest letter happens to be capital A. So it's an alphabetical sort, which works out really nice. So most of the time when you sort words, you want them alphabetically sorted, right? So it works out for our course catalog. Hey, look, we're building out all the classes we're going to start taking. Let's build out our major map, right? Take these classes in the fall, take these classes in the winter, yada, yada, yada. Advising tells you to do that, right? I hope so. You're not looking super enthused about advising.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So just as a fun side note here, the ABET organization, which means something here, ABET accreditation, who are they? The Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology was recently here on campus Sunday, Monday, Tuesday for a 3-day site visit to renew our accreditation, and we have tentatively passed. They have to do their official write-up, but of what they told us, they didn't say we had any giant flags. One thing they were sad about, or said we should improve, was student advising. So, me making fun of advising here was apparently warranted. So, and the unofficial Discord server is full of students doing unofficial advising because the advisors apparently don't do a good job of it. But now we know it because ABET told us it was bad. Not that students didn't already tell us, and we'll have to fix it because ABET told us we have to, or we lose our accreditation, which is sort of a good thing, right? Like that's why we have these accrediting organizations, to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, rather than hoping they listen to student feedback. So, okay, that was a fun side story. But it's like a 6-year accreditation, which is really cool. But it was a ton of paperwork, so much paperwork, like any other accreditation, lots of papers. Yeah, you can convert things to, so you can make a list out of it. Like the values itself isn't a list either. You're going to make it a list. You can hand it to the list constructor. Say, hey, make a list out of these things, like we do with our sorted. So you can put lists inside of lists. You can put dictionaries inside of dictionaries. You look very excited for this after tic-tac-toe. Right? Now, this one is not the easiest example. I guess we could. So we could have how about we had a list or a dictionary for, this is the program plan. Here's a dictionary. The first value here, that will be fall year 1. The value associated with that then should be, well, let's make a dictionary of classes that you should take in your first semester, right? So maybe that would be, it's not all of these new dictionary classes, but that's, we'll just pretend. So say the value associated with that is our new dictionary, right? And then we could take our program plan, add a key of, winter year 1, and say, hey, let's go add a dictionary. Here is the associated value. Here's a class with an associated value of its description, class, associated value, description, yada, 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 on and on and on and on as we went. Eventually you take an English class in here, right? There's some sort of English composition class.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to say it's a 100 because I have no idea what the number is here. Composition. Apologies. And English is a very important class to take here, especially in data science, because communicating your results is really hard to do sometimes. So being able to write well is actually incredibly important. So I don't mean to minimize that at all. That's a super useful skill to have, because you can get people who are brilliant and can look at data and come up with, ideas and solutions and infer, here's my results. And if they can't communicate it, it's worthless. I mean, a lot of times we do it with pictures, but um, some things need more than a picture to communicate. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. Like, a picture isn't enough all the time. So having some sort of nice narrative description of what it is we're doing and talking about your methods and all sorts of stuff. So I wasn't trying to trash on English people. I'm sorry. Right. So the value. I'm sorry. Here's the key, and we're going to assign associated value of another dictionary. There's the right syntax here. So key of winter year one, value associated is another dictionary. So we can loop through each key in the dictionary, which would be the fall year one, winter year one, fall year two, winter year two, fall year three, yada, yada, yada. The value associated would be another dictionary. We'd have to loop through that other dictionary inside of it. Yeah, that's fine. They want me to put this in as the second. Okay. This can just be the second one here. Comma, colon. Okay. Oh, no, too much. And without spaces. Okay, now it's happy with me. The yellow lines are just warnings. You don't have to fix them, but they bother me sometimes because they're yellow lines, and I'd like to get rid of them. Right. So this is a dictionary of dictionaries, just to get a list of lists. So to get an individual item, you get the key of, and then the next key of. Right. So if I wanted to get the course description for CIS 1501, I take my program plan, key of fall year one, key of CIS 1501. That'd be the value associated with CIS 1501 in the dictionary associated with the key of fall year one. Right? It's nested. There's a dictionary inside of a dictionary. And yes, you can do 3-dimensional and 4-dimensional and n-dimensional dictionaries of dictionaries of dictionaries of dictionaries until your nose bleeds. And it probably will after like 5 levels of dictionaries, because we just can't even understand at that point what's happening here. So don't do it. Right? If it stops making sense, don't do it. Right? The code is for us to make sense of what we're doing here. Okay, so there'll be another approach. There'll be other ways, I promise. So look at all the grades. We can have a dictionary of grades with keys of student names, values associated of a dictionary of homework or grade category, and then a value associated of a list. So this is first dimension here, second dimension here, third. So this is a 3-dimensional dictionary of lists, almost. Like, these are just single values, but it could be a list here. And it's still, this one sort of makes sense at this point here. We haven't gone too far, but if you go much further here, we're going to run into lots of trouble, right? So then you can get out particular values, you can get their names, you can get their scores, and so on, and calculate their points and whatever we're doing here. And this we could follow, right? I'm assuming we could follow. If I'm skipping over stuff, please shout at me. I'm assuming no one wants me to read them the textbook. Okay, I've had enough classes myself where people would put PowerPoint on the screen and read it to me that I would just be bored to tears. And I've tried really hard not to do that, and I might have gone too far because I don't do PowerPoint at all. Because then I put something on the screen and people start reading that, and then they stop listening. Not that it's all that important you listen to me, but like, you can't do 2 things at once. So why would I put something on the screen and have you not listen to the things that I think are important? I don't know. It's a whole thing. Right, so that, I think, covers our dictionary of dictionaries. I didn't turn on the labs. Oh, my friends. Okay, let me turn on the labs. Do you want to just turn them all on now for every single chapter? Or is it better to have them like turn on as we go? No one cares? I'm sorry, 2 people said something and I didn't hear either thing. Turn them all on now? Okay, I will turn them all on. You don't have to watch me do that. I will finish that in just a minute for the other chapters here. Occasionally I pull some of them out. These are nice short ones. So Zybooks at one point had like really big labs, and then they realized one really big lab was really obnoxious. So they went to lots of really small labs, which I think is much better. So if I find the big ones, I get rid of the big ones. Okay, so I will turn those all on in a little bit here. Right, how are things going with the next project? Because that's due next week, so we have a week to work on it. If you haven't started yet, you still have a week. Please start today. Okay, don't leave it for the last minute. I always feel bad when I can't help people with things because we've gone to the last minute here. So specifically with functions here, using lots of functions. I know there's a Python hangman solution. I can Google it myself, but it doesn't have all of these functions. The idea is we want to practice using functions. So all of these are designed so that you are passing values to functions, not using global values. So you could say, hey, I have got a hidden words value at the top of my program before I define my functions, and then all the functions can use it. What I'd like to do is avoid that, because that puts you into a bad habit. So generally using global values like that is a bad habit. So we want to avoid that if we can. So that's why they're specifically designed with the arguments, right? I think someone had emailed me and said, hey, could I just define it above and then it'd be accessible? I'd rather you not. So get used to passing values and returning values and storing them, because that will set us up for next chapter when we get to classes next week, where the whole concept just changes on us. And if you're used to using static values or global values, it doesn't really do what you'd expect. Okay, so again, ideally, these are the functions we use. We've got the, I didn't add a rubric. Didn't I do a rubric? I didn't. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 functions. We got 15 points. I can't divide 6 by 15. Can I make this 18 points and we get 3 points per function? Is that okay? No? You want to leave it at 15 points? I can do whatever. It's okay. All right. 15 divided by 6. I could do 2.5 points per function. Is that better? Okay, sure. 2.5 points per function. I think I will add it in because I have to I want my second monitor so I can look at both of them at once here and open it on 2 tabs. So I'll add that in. So 3 points per function. This one's almost free, which is, or no, 2.5 points. Sorry, we said 2.5. I gave you the example code for, here's the list of words. You just go pick a random one out, right? Check the length of the list, get a random value between 0 and length, right? Okay. Questions, thoughts, concerns on Hangman? Okay. This one is like ever so slightly entertaining to play. It's really hard if you get a 3-letter word, though. But 4 or 5-letter words are a little easier here. We could do Wordle too, but like everyone has a Wordle solution now. Do you folks still play Wordle? Yeah. I still play. So I have a text group now with my brother, my mother, and my aunt. And if we've been going like 100 days now of like texting each other our Wordle scores every day, and that's the most I've ever texted my aunt in my life. So like, it's interesting, but it's really just our scores and like, haha, I did better than you. It's not in the actual conversation. But it was fun. Not bad. I think he sold it for like $1 million too, right? It was a 7-figure buyout for a little game. All right, sorry. There's another rabbit hole. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? If not, I think we can call it a day. And we'll come back next week and go on to classes. Awesome. Take care, folks.